Good morning.
Good morning, ma.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you, ma.
Good, good.
I've made you co-host, ma, and we already have a thousand and five
I see that.
participants.
I see that. Ooh, quite a lot of people. Okay.
Good morning, ma.
Good morning. Mrs. Osobo, are you
Fine,
there?
thank you, ma.
Yeah.
I've made you co-host, ma, and we already have a thousand and five
I see that.
participants.
Okay. I see that. Okay. How many people in total are we getting?
Good morning, ma.
Mrs. Osobo, are you there?
Thank you, ma. I've made you co-host, ma, and we already have a thousand and five
I see that. Okay. I see that. How many people in total are we getting?
Hello.
Okay. Hello. Famsat.
Yes, ma.
Good morning. Okay. You have okay. I can see a lot of people have already started writing
Hello.
in. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm just making some preparations in the background. So if you need me, I'm here. But I'm going to mute myself.
We are live on YouTube.
I'm just making some preparations in the background. So if you need me, I'm here. But I'm going to mute in the background. So if you need me, I'm here. But I'm going to mute myself.
We are live on YouTube.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's event. I'm just waiting for one or two more people to get on board, and I believe we can get started. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, please. Good morning.
Good morning. We should be starting shortly. Fauzia, can you call me, please? Okay, I've got a few people here in the chat that have said that they cannot hear. You need to check your internet. If you cannot hear but you can see, you might have to log off and then log back on again. Okay. And I think the moderator, where's the moderator? Okay. We are waiting for for the moderator to join us, and we should be able to be on our way. If there's any questions, please post them to the Q&A. We will pick all the questions up from there. And you can also post some to the chat. We will be reading them regularly, and we will be picking all the information up from there. The moderator will give you a clearer details of how the day will progress. For those people who have tried to sign in and the message is saying that we have reached capacity, we are airing it live on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube to go and to join us. I'll try and get you the YouTube handle. So it's streaming live on YouTube at OEQA Lagos. So OEQA at OEQA Lagos on YouTube for those who are not able to sign in. I'm posting that on the chat as well, so you can pass it along to your colleagues. OEQA Lagos. That is the YouTube handle. Okay. Is our facilitator on board? Can she please signify?
Yes, I'm on board.
Good morning. I was just waiting for you to connect. So I will hand over to you and we can get started. Okay? Hello? Hello?
She needs to unmute herself.
Oh, I think she's done
Good
that.
morning, everyone.
Yes.
Can everyone hear me? Good morning. If you can hear me, just maybe say something in the chat box. I'm really excited about today. I mean, this is a day that has been coming for a long while, and I know you agree with me. But without wasting much time, I would like to say good morning to Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, the Director General, Office of Education Quality Assurance, Mrs. Abiola Seriki Ayeni, to all the staff from the Ministry of Education, Lagos State, to all our teachers, to our facilitators, to our panelists, to everyone who's joining us through this live stream on YouTube. I say a good morning to you from Lagos. My name is Isabella Claire, and I'll be your host, your moderator this morning. And I know that today means a lot. It gives me really great joy because just seeing the work that has been going on by the Lagos State government when it comes to education during the pandemic has brought a lot of joy to my heart. We can see the speed at which they responded in terms of making educational materials available, providing guidance to teachers, to school leaders, students, and today again, we're going to be getting more guidance from them. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Moving Forward, a training for safe reopening of Lagos State public and private schools. And I know a lot of our children can't wait to school, but the truth is that COVID-19 is very much out there. It's real. We all have to observe all the safety protocols. We can't let our guard down, even though the numbers are on the decrease. So today we'll be hearing from key people in the education ministry so that this transition after months on lockdown will be as smooth and as safe as possible, so all lives will be protected. So we'll be moving straight to our welcome address from the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo. But before I bring her on, I do want to say, like the popular comedian on Instagram, on social media says, "You are doing well, ma." And I say this because I'm an educator. I'm someone who has taught in the classrooms here in Lagos, now teaching on TV. And I've just seen the passion, the hard work, the tireless efforts, the sacrifice that you have made, your team has made during this pandemic. I see all the collaborations happening with the private sector to ensure that the education, the learning that takes place in Lagos State is tech enabled. I see the consultation going on, and I see just how open, transparent your ministry has been and how committed you have remained to this education sector. So I've met you in the past, but I really know that this is only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to come from you, Ma. So I know that a lot of us are muted. So on behalf of everybody, I will be putting my hands together to warmly welcome Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo to give the welcome address and to kick off this meeting. Honorable Commissioner Ma, I believe she's on the call and she'll be joining us. Yes, I can see that she's joined, and I really implore everyone to have your pens, your papers, your notepads ready, because she'll be sharing very important information in her welcome address. So I believe there might be an issue with the from the technical side. Please can the admin team unmute the Honorable Commissioner, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, to enable her deliver her welcome address and kick this event off. So as we sort out the technicalities and unmute the Honorable Commissioner for Education, and please keep the comments coming in the chat box so that we're sure we're carrying everyone 100% along the way.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you very much for joining us this very, very important occasion. We want to move forward, as I said. We want to move forward and build ourselves the skills that will be essential to opening of our schools safely and efficiently and effectively as well. I want to first of all thank all private school proprietors who are here. We opened schools to SSC and GSC, and so far there's been no problem in the state at all, for which we must first of all thank God, but we must also thank all of you, because that meant that we were able to work well with the results, we delivered them correctly, and students were able to go to school safely. So I want to thank all of you. I also thank our public schools. It was more difficult there, especially some schools with large enrollments, and people were very skeptical about our ability to be able to meet the social distancing protocols, to provide water for children to wash their hands, and also for the bathrooms and toilets. It was difficult for us because of the huge population we had in some schools. But I want to thank the public schools too, because again, they did their best, and we had literally 100,000 children going to school every day. And the Ministry of Health, that has been watching the behavior of the pandemic, has assured us in education that there has been no untoward incidents since we started. Since we opened to the SS3 students. And now we are on the verge of opening to the rest of the students. It will not be once, it will be a phased approach. That is, we'll take it a step at a time, because each one will be a pilot in how to grow and increase numbers in schools. So I hope you will take it as a wish that, we enter school safely. Our mantra throughout the school period, a very difficult period for us all, both in public and private sectors, has been, it is the quite a period, but our mantra has always been safety, safety, safety. We could not live in a situation where we are allowed to end back in school, much as people pleaded, because the dangers were just too much. At the point, we were warned that there will be a spike, there will be a peak in August, July, August. And looking at the figures, they look like peak in July, August, and the trend. So no one feels more comfortable opening schools up. And about before opening, we must go into business as usual. And before I leave, I don't want to talk too much because I did tell someone that I'm determined that I will do more listening than speaking at this point, and I will be helpful of listening to what people have to say. So I would like to ask us all, even as we go forward, to hone and sharpen my leadership skills, because in a study of the schools of what happened during the pandemic, the organizations and individuals that actually succeeded had certain things in common. First of all, they were people who are creative. Look, this has happened. Nothing's going to change this in the short term. I can't, by wishing it away, let it go. How do I respond creatively under the circumstances? So people who are creative are thought differently. Let me think differently. Let me look at potential solutions from other industries. Let me look at potential industries from other countries and see how I can implement these solutions. There were people who were innovative, willing to change and do things differently. I know public school teachers in Lagos State who in their homes set up mini training centers on Telegram, WhatsApp, teaching children every. I follow one of those teachers, she has 1,000 followers on Telegram. And every day she would just bring out her black, her little whiteboard and so she looked for an opportunity. So people look for opportunities, even in the midst of this terrible situation, were also able to thrive. People who are able to create scenarios, because you have to have the ability to say, look, this is the worst thing that could happen. This is the best thing that could happen, and this is the most likely scenario. So how do I address and adapt myself despite all these circumstances? In the Ministry of Education, nobody could have predicted COVID. And I'm sure it was in the world at least 3 months before we started noticing mask. But by then it was like, what is the worst possible scenario? How would we address ourselves and find ourselves in the worst possible scenarios? And that was why we started moving quickly to start to look at other ways of teaching and learning. We have to diffuse leadership. I can't say as a commissioner for education, I know everything and answer every question. I have to work with a great team, and publicly and openly I thank them here. I thank all the leadership of the Ministry of Education, from the permanent secretary, the tutor generals, to the principals of schools who rose to the occasion and said, look, our children are not going to suffer learning slide during this period. We'll do as much as we can. So diffuse leadership. And of course, who was the person who, can I say, inspired our ability to diffuse leadership? Who was the person who was able to inspire our ability to diffuse leadership? It was the governor of the state, Adebayo. We must thank him because he allowed us to diffuse leadership to us, and therefore we were able to diffuse leadership to other people. Thank you very much. And of course, so when we look at all this, I hope we will not have skills to go off and say, yeah, we're back to normal. I'm not sure we'll ever go back to the way things used to be. I think we'll have to just get used to how things are going to be from now on. It's a bit sad for relationships because who wouldn't like to hug a child? But if hugging a child could bring problems to that child for yourself, the best thing to do is not to hug the child. And so we have to live with that situation. So I thank you all, and I hope that once we start this program, that everything will go well. I look forward to hearing. I've been seeing some questions already. I will try and answer as many questions. I've told the DG, who I must thank for this initiative. Please let us do more listening than talking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. The Honorable Commissioner for Education, Lagos State. just like you said, let us do more listening than asking questions, because some of the questions I know you'd like to ask will be answered as this training goes on. So please, let's listen, and let's also take down notes. Let's also write. We do apologize for the audio. We're looking into it and it will be resolved. For those who wanted to join but are unable to join because we've reached our maximum capacity, please note that this session is being streamed on YouTube, so you can still watch the session. So please go onto the YouTube channel, OEQA, and you can stream this session. So next on the agenda, it's a great pleasure to welcome our convener for this webinar, Mrs. Abiola Seriki Ayeni. She's the Director General, Office of Education, Quality Assurance, and we all know her. So let's make her feel very welcome as she comes to deliver the school reopening address. And please, let's pay attention. DG Ma, can we hear you? Please, can we unmute the DG to enable her deliver her school reopening address?
Hello, good morning. Thank you so much. Of Education. Thank you so much, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo. Thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you all for coming here today. I had some slides here, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to present them. Thinking through reopening and in thinking through what is going on globally, it's something that we don't take lightly. The Office of Education Quality Assurance is mandated with the responsibility of ensuring quality education in all schools, both public and private, tertiary, within Lagos State. Now, in thinking this training, we really had to look through best practices all over the world, and we really had to come to terms, especially as a state, realizing that Lagos State is the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we wanted to make sure that as we begin to prepare both public and private schools towards reopening, that we're doing it in a streamlined way. We're doing it in a way that's sustainable, in a way that makes sense, and we're doing it in a way that accommodates our new normal. We know that, unlike years past where we can just create a calendar and say that school would definitively start on this day, that health and safety has taken precedence at this time. There was a recent survey done in July, I believe, where we noticed that the priorities of parents, even in taking their children to school, have changed dramatically. Academic year 19/20, what was on top of the mind of our parents was learning outcomes and maybe distance and affordability. This new year, health, safety, and wellness has really taken the number one slot, and for obvious reasons. So we all know that the pandemic is something that we've been passive in a way because the pandemic happened to us. And as we begin thinking through how schools will reopen, how they will stay open, there are key opportunities that exist for us to transform education. It's interesting, I read recently that the changes in education, the innovation, all the things that have happened in the past 6 months have dramatically changed the educational landscape than in the past 100 years. And that is something that really hits hard, and that's something that we really need to key into, because at this point of reopening, the control now lies in our hands, right? Whether or not education is transformed, whether or not schools are able to remain opened even after having had opened, it lies in our hands. And what do I mean by that? I mean maintaining basic measures. There is no vaccine available yet, but we've seen cases all over the world where they've been able to successfully reopen, right? And that hinges on the ability of us as a society to wear masks, to maintain social distancing, and to frequently wash our hands. There is no way that that can be overemphasized than what we have continued to try to do. We must continue to remember that the only way we are going to remain open or minimize the closures of schools highly dependent on our behavior as a society. Now, for private schools is a bit different because not in that respect, but your concerns are a little bit more than that of public schools for obvious reasons, right? So you have a business that you're running, and it's highly dependent on your parents' ability to feel safe sending their children to school. It's also highly dependent across the board for public and private schools to ensure that when children are going to school, they are not just checking in and checking out, but that when they go to school, learning in this new normal continues. So how do we do that? How do we key into the opportunities that exist now? Generation really transform our country. How are we able to do that? Right now, education in Lagos and of course Nigeria, is threatened by, how far back we could go if we don't do the needful during this pandemic in terms of a drop in school enrollment, in terms of abuse to children, and access to quality education in alignment with SDG 4. So we as teachers, as school owners, as principals, as administrators, really must take this very seriously because not only does the education of our children depend on it, the sustainability of our society, the economic growth depends on it as well. And of course, the future of not just of our children, but of all of us lies in the hands of these children. So I just want to encourage everyone here today. I'm very grateful that you've all made time to be here today. And I really want you to take this time to glean as much as possible from the learnings from our facilitators that are cemented in education and health and safety, okay? Let's take this seriously. Let's make sure that we're adhering to set standards and that we're able to move forward to school. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, the Director General, Office of Education Quality Assurance, Lagos State. Just listening to you, you kept on emphasizing on how important health and safety is. And prior to the lockdown, parents were interested in learning outcomes, in getting the grades. But right now, the health and safety of their children, it comes tops. And one thing that really struck out or stood out to me was the fact that it lies in our hands. It's a collective responsibility. It's not just something that the government can do alone. Teachers, the non-academic staff, the students, the parents, it's a joint effort. And for us to be able to reopen the schools successfully and keep them open, it's important that we observe all the safety protocols that have been laid down by the state. And I'm really glad that the next item on the agenda has to do with safety because, again, we cannot keep schools open if they are not safe. So at this point, I'd like to welcome our next speaker. She is the consultant, public health physician, and surveillance team lead, Lagos State COVID-19 response. So this is someone that knows our onions. This is someone that has been on the front line, and this is someone that's coming with experience. So please let's make welcome Dr. Bisola Adebayo as she delivers the school reopening address. And on behalf of everybody, I'll give her a warm round of applause. But I can see all the engagement in the chat box. Please keep it coming. And for those that join us because we've reached our maximum capacity, you can definitely join the YouTube live stream OEQA Lagos. So Dr. Bisola Adebayo, we're looking forward to what promises to be a very insightful school reopening address.
Good morning, everybody.
Dr. Adebayo, are you there, please? Can we unmute the mic and we'll have the address? Yes.
Good morning, everybody. Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Good morning, wow, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I thought we're listening in today. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us here. Adebayo, I lead the COVID. It's bad, so that's why I put on my video. I lead the COVID-19 surveillance team in Lagos State, and we work in the 20 LGAs. And I thank you for inviting us here because we're all in it together from all we've been saying. And even as a parent, it's a very encouraging, it's a very encouraging step to see all that is being done in Lagos State to ensure that schools reopen. Like everybody says, we're now in a new normal, and life has to go despite COVID-19. We don't know it will be with us for the rest of the year. I know we're still going to see cases. The good thing though, Lagos State has been recording a fall in the number of cases that we're reporting every week. So we thank God for that. Like I say, I just think God has been merciful to us in addition to the great work, that we have been doing. So I'll just give a brief background of what we have been doing so far, understand the protocols that we have on ground. The Emergency Operating Center for COVID-19 in Lagos. We have what we call several pillars. We have the surveillance pillar, which I will talk more about. We have a case management pillar, and those are the doctors that take care of, the patients in the treatment center. Lagos State also has a psychosocial pillar, which is very important. So in addition to, apart from contact tracing and all those things that we are familiar with, we also have a team of psychiatrists, psychologists, and even social workers, that take care of patients and their families as well. And then Lagos has a laboratory pillar. Lagos has a network involved in the COVID response. The first laboratory to start was the laboratory at Luz. We have a virology lab there, headed by Professor Omilabu. They were the first to start, and the lab joined, and they've been taking a lot of the samples. And then we also have NIMA, and we have Central Public Health Lab that is owned by Nigerian Center for the Disease Control. Labs are what we will term public health laboratories. So testing in these laboratories is free and is usually targeted at community. We have people that need to test and we have people that want to test. So the public health laboratories actually take care of people that need to test. Now, Lagos State has also brought in a network of private laboratories after very rigorous screening, and they are also rigorously followed up to ensure that quality is met. So we have laboratories such as SynLab, Cleaner Lancet, AfriGlobal, Biologics. We have a whole list of them, and I'll also make that available, after our presentation. So these private and public labs work together to make sure that people have access to testing. Testing in private labs, though, is not free, so it's at a cost. But that in the public lab is borne by the Lagos state government, and it's a lot, because I was telling somebody was saying, you know, that testing in private labs is so expensive, and I was like, the cost price of those tests is actually close to 40,000. So you can imagine how much money Mr. Governor has spent on COVID at no cost, you know, to the people of Lagos. So apart from that, we also have a decontamination team, an evacuation team. So perhaps if there is an outbreak, the decontamination team is called to decontaminate the premises. And then the evacuation team is actually made up of a network of ambulances led by Last Ambulance, that's the Lagos State Ambulance Service. And they usually pick up, you know, patients and transport them to the treatment centers. Luckily enough, we had several treatment centers before, but you know, now because we have treatment centers we have now are primarily what we call CACOVID. CACOVID is located at Mainland Hospital, Yaba. It's a public-private initiative, but patients are also treated for free in CACOVID. And then we have Indo Eye Care, and it's also a free treatment center. And then you have some other private facilities, but those ones people pay for them. They include Vedic and First Cardiology, and I think Reddington. I'm just giving us an overview so that we know that we're not alone, and there are things in place that we can easily feed into, you know, with regards to the COVID response. So we have those pillars working. And then at the local government, we have medical officers of health in each local government and LCDA in Lagos. And they are also leading the response in their local government. And everything that happens at the center, I tell you, is also happening at the local government. So even now, every local government in Lagos has at least one walk-in site where people can be tested. And you know, I want us to know any suspect case, we easily know where to go to, and it's not like, oh, you have to start calling somebody in Alausa or at Mainland Hospital. So we have one walk-in site, at least one in each local government, and the target is to make sure we have at least one in each of the 57 LGAs, LCDAs in Lagos State. We also have contact tracing teams in each of these sites. We have, and they're also involved in home-based care. So there's a whole team, and also if there are any alerts or rumors too, the MOHs can be informed. So this is the general structure that we have, you know, for COVID in Lagos State. And all these pillars, these different teams I've said, they report to the incident manager, who is Dr. Ismail, and he also happens to be the state epidemiologist and the director for biosafety. And he in turn also reports to the Honorable Commissioner. We have Mr. Governor as the incident commander for Lagos State. And I tell you, a lot of work is going on to make sure that, you know, we keep COVID down to surveillance, because I think we're closely tied, you know, with what is going on in schools. And I think we also have Dr. Folari Opawoye. Sorry, I forgot to mention his pillar. He's here on, he's a panelist as well. He's control pillar. And they are a very important group to each and every one of us, because in everything that we're doing at work, whether it's COVID or regular routine work, we have to maintain infection. So regards to the surveillance team, so our work usually encompasses the following. Usually we get rumors and alerts. So people call, you know, there's a suspected case, somebody is ill somewhere. And we have a set of doctors that triage all these calls and now decide, does this person need to be tested, or does this person need to be moved to a treatment center? Cases. So anybody that fits the case definition, usually when you see a person with fever, difficulty in breathing, I know they've been pushing it down our throats. All of us know, you know, most of these symptoms. You know, we can test the person, but if the person is really ill, at Mainland Hospital, they admit suspected cases. So it's not only people that are confirmed. So once we have the rumor and alert, they triage, and then it gets to the rapid response team or the case investigation team. So they are the ones, if there's any issue, that come around to ask questions and see what needs to be done, ensure that testing is done if there's a need for it. And then from the case investigation team, we now go ahead, to test. And once we test, and once we test, if a person is positive, an assessment is done to determine if the person can, stay at home and be seen by the home-based care team, or if the person needs to come into the treatment center. And then another important aspect is the aspect of contact tracing. So if there's any positive case, of course, we will follow up, and then contacts of and followed up for the period of 2 weeks from the time they contacted the case last. So this is the general structure, of the surveillance team and the COVID response in Lagos. So we're very excited that schools are opening, and we're happy to be working together. And I think what I want to pass across today is just to ensure that we know the protocols on ground that we have, so that even at the level of the local government, we have access, to the medical officers of health, know where, the testing sites are, know who to call. Now, thankfully, COVID has spared children. I think we've had very few cases of death. I think altogether, we've now had up to 10 deaths in children in Lagos. And the children that died, unfortunately, were children that had comorbidities. So these were children that maybe or children that had sickle cell disease. But generally, the good thing is that children tend to do well. In fact, many times we don't even screen, children under 2 and things like that, because, most times they are asymptomatic. Those that are more higher risk are usually those that are of older ages, those that have comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, those that are obesity, those that have sickle cell disease, those that are on treatment for cancer, any condition that may reduce their immunity. So generally, children, tend to do well. The only other thing I want to mention is that, many people are asymptomatic, but however, there's a possibility that people that are asymptomatic can also, transmit the infection, which is why we have to pay close attention to our processes in our schools. Signs to look out for as children resume. The primary thing we've said: fever, children with cough, upper respiratory tract infection. And these are things that are very common in children as well. But the issue is, to test as quickly as we can, and then just to institute measures by which we do social distancing, wear masks, and make sure, IPC, we did it during Ebola. Lagos State schools were very active during Ebola. I remember all the hand washing items were there, Veronica buckets, and all those things were done. So it's just similar to what we are going to do now. I know that there's a plan in place, so I don't want to preempt, but I just want to encourage us that there are resources available. We're working hand in hand. So the Ministry of Education is working closely with the Ministry of Health and with Lagos State COVID response, and even the NCDC too. There are guidelines that have been provided by NCDC and also WHO, and all those things are available. We also have an NCDC team in Lagos as well to support all our activities in Lagos State. So I want to wish us well. I don't want to take too much of our time, but if there are questions, we can attend to it. I think primarily our aim here, Dr. Folare and I, is to listen, know what is on ground, and know how we can come in to help strengthen, the response of Lagos State Ministry of Education. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ma.
Thank you very much. I was just really happy listening to you, because you said the fatality rate has been less than 10 for children in Lagos State, and even the ones who have passed on, unfortunately, from COVID-19 was as a result of inherent vulnerability. So that just gladdens my heart, knowing that children under that age are less susceptible to contracting the virus. I've been seeing a lot of questions in the chat box. Please let's endeavor to listen, just as the Honorable Commissioner has advised us, because those questions might be answered during the speakers' addresses. So please let's listen. There will be a time for questions and answers, and then you can ask the questions if you still have them. So thank you very much, Dr. Bisola Adebayo, consultant, public health physician, and surveillance team lead, Lagos State COVID-19 response. And now we're going to a very important part of the agenda, which has to do with the school reopening process training. And our facilitator is Mrs. Olanrewaju Onito. She's the Chief Executive Officer, W Holistic Business Solutions. And she's someone that has been very active during the whole COVID-19 school lockdown, working with teachers, working with organizations, and really getting a feel for what's happening and ways that we can really respond to this. So I know that you're in indeed very good hands. So please let's make Mrs. Olanrewaju Onito feel very welcome as she delivers her school reopening process training. So this is a good time to have your pens, your papers, your notepads to jot something down. And at this point, I'll be handing over to Mrs. Onito.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm sure that we've all been waiting for this training. What I must mention is that this training is not a replacement for the online training that we all need to take. This particular training is just to help us understand the process for reopening, and we're all required to still go and register our schools online and to also take the online course. So this doesn't replace the course. So this is just supposed to intimate us. So I'm going to start my screen share shortly, and we will start the training immediately. And like we mentioned, after my training, we would immediately commence the Q&A session so that we are all informed. Kindly let us know in the comment section if you can see my screen. And Isabella, please let me know if everyone can see my screen.
I can see your screen, so
yeah. Okay.
I believe everyone is saying, yes, I can see your screen. Yes, I can. Yes, please. I love the engagement. So over to you, Mrs. Onito.
Thank you so very much. So over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to be taking us through the process for the safe reopening of Lagos State public and private schools. The specific process, the flow, is just 3. And the end game for us is to be able to get the Safe to Learn reopening permit. The first step of the process is registration and self-assessment. The second step is the online training. And the third step is clearance. And all of this put together would lead to the Safe to Learn reopening permit by the Office of Education Quality Assurance. So step 1, registration and self-assessment. The official website for OEQA Lagos is www.oeqalagos.com. And once you get to that page, you would see the button that talks about the reopening process. But if you'd like to go there directly, you can just, type in oeqalagos.com/school reopening process, and it will take you to the reopening process page. Now, under this page, you are required to register your school. So this is supposed to be done by the school owner or leader, and you're going to move to the registration process. Make sure you have all the details of the school as you're registering. And what you would see, or the process you would go through while doing that, is it's a 4-page process, and it is very simple. You should be able to complete this within 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how fast you type. So the first section of that registration for your school, it covers your school name, your address, your school email, your school phone number, the LCDA you're in, your school ownership, whether you're private and public. So public schools are expected to complete this as well. And then your mode of operation, and then you click next. You go to the second slide, where you talk about your site details. They want to know the name of the primary contact person, designation, email of the primary contact person, phone number. You select your school category, whether you're secondary school, nursery and primary, whichever type of school you run, the drop down is available. And then you select the availability and source of water, whether it's a borehole, whether it's from the water corporation or both. And then you select whether you have perimeter fencing or not. And you go to the next page where we collect the school statistics. With the school statistics, we want the estimated total number of children, specifically boys, girls. The total calculates itself, so you don't need to do that total. You just input the boys and the girls, and the total computes by itself. You also look at the number of classes, the special rooms. So your library, your laboratories, you want to identify the total number that you have. You also put in the teaching staff count and the support staff count. So you're supposed to separate your staffing, stating the teaching staff and then the support staff. And then finally, we want to know the number of toilets that you have in your school. Then you move to the final slide, which is a summary slide. It takes the name of your school as you put in on the first slide, your address, your email and phone number, and you're supposed to click that you certify that all of that information provided is true and correct to the best of your knowledge. Once you do that, you click submit. When you submit, you get an email that looks something like this. And the email will provide you with a code that allows you to access the training. Before you do that, you should go, after you receive the email for registration, you should download and thoroughly review the supporting documents that the link was provided in the email. And the supporting documents include the guidelines from the federal government, the Child and Safety Guide, the Child Protection and Safety Guide, and most importantly, you have the self-assessment and safety checklist for reopening of schools. Now, what you're supposed to do at this stage is use the self-assessment to determine your current readiness towards school reopening. Now, this is not supposed to be submitted. This is supposed to, just help you do a self-assessment to know where you are, whether you're doing well or not, and action steps you need to take. So this is just supposed to help you and your school just to run your self-assessment. You can download that within the supporting documents. By Monday, 7th of September, we would have a folder that also includes what we call the reopening toolkit, which would include tools and templates that would allow you to be able to develop the plans that you require for clearance. I'll talk a bit about that later on. But this is what ends the registration and self-assessment, which is the step 1. Step 2 is the online training. So remember the email that you got, you had gotten a code, and within the email, you would also get the link to access the online training. Once you click on the link within the email, it would take you this the link here, and you would be able to click on the school reopening course. Thereafter, you take the reopening course. Now, but all staff are supposed to access the course and go through the course. For all the other staff, From Monday, 7th September 2020, all other staff should access the course on the OEQA website under resources, and then you will see Safe School Reopening course. That is where every other staff should go to take the course and get their certificate. The school owner or leader who set up the school account would go through the normal process with the email that was provided when they registered the school. So please note that. When you conclude your training, you will be issued an e-certificate. And for you to commence your clearance process, you are supposed to upload the electronic copy of the school owner or leader's certificate and that of at least 3 management level teachers or staff. So in total, you're supposed to upload 4 certificates. And then you're going to upload the electronic copies of all of the plans that we have mentioned. All the plans that you need, you would get it from the training. I'm not going to say it here because like I mentioned when I started, this training is not replacing the online training. All of the information you need is within the online training. And also, if you're able to develop the plans yourself, sample tools and templates that you can use would be uploaded on the drive that you would access, and you'll be able to see samples that you can work with and you can use as templates. Once you have uploaded all of that, you then schedule an assessment visit from OEQA towards achieving the Safe to Learn reopening permit. And that is when you as a school are cleared to say that, yes, this school can open. However, I must mention that at the basic minimum, you must ensure that your school is registered and you must have completed the training. Because the OEQA team will be going from school to school, it is not going to, within a week, we can't cover the entire Lagos, for instance, to say everybody has gotten their Safe to Learn reopening permit. But at the minimum, we must ensure that all schools have completed the training. And by Monday, we expect that we start seeing a surge in the training from our school owners and leaders and from the teachers and other staff. Okay, so how is Lagos State working towards ensuring that all schools are supported? We have also developed different strategies to support our schools to go through this process. We know a couple of schools are having challenges going onto the online training. We're working on it to correct it. And like I mentioned, everybody can revisit the site on Monday and everything would have been sorted. But we also have a support structure we would like to present to you so that you can understand how to get support in this reopening process. First, we're using what we call the hub and spoke model. Now, every single school cannot come to the ministry to come and ask for support or that they couldn't log on or anything like that. So we have said, how do we ensure that the Office of Education Quality Assurance reaches out to everybody? In achieving both efficiency and cost effectiveness, we'll be using the hub and spoke model to support and reach schools in Lagos State. So OEQA is serving as the hub, and what OEQA will be doing is running a training of trainers for school champions for public schools, associations for private schools, networks, NGOs that work with a number of schools within the 6 education districts of Lagos. This training would also include the curriculum from the Lagos State COVID-19 response team that we heard from today. And this particular training of trainers is supposed to help us equip the spokes. That's what we call them. If you see the diagram, you see that we have the hub and we have the spokes. So the spokes will be empowered with the training and additional support from OEQA towards supporting the schools to be able to attend clearance. So these spokes would be the first line support to the schools to be able to go through the process. So whether supporting you technically, some spokes can decide to have like centers that have computers and internet that will be able to allow you to come and take the training. Some will be able to provide support if you have challenges when you are filling the registration. Yes, we've done this training, but you might have additional questions. When we're done with the training of trainers, they will be able to support you. The training of trainers will be happening sometime next week, so we'll be communicating with all of the spokes that we intend to work with. In addition to that, the other support structure we have is the OEQA Support Center. There are 3 ways you can reach the OEQA Support Center. We have the direct line where you can call Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's the call center. And the number is 080-880-84340. You can actually reach them 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. 24 hours, you can send SMS and WhatsApp to the following number, 0808-326-7419. And that is strictly SMS and WhatsApp only. And for email support, you can send an email to support@oeqalagos.com. Before I came on board, I saw questions as to, or comments as to, all of the reopening process is costing a lot. But what I can mention at this point is that the OEQA agency is actually working to ensure that that part is also covered. The Lagos State Employment Trust Fund is about to launch a product in collaboration with some financial institutions for low-cost private schools so that they can get access to affordable finance, and for the other schools as well, they can get access to finance to be able to support their reopening process. That will be happening soon, and you can go to the LSCTF website to find out when that happens. So on that note, we would like to stop talking and start listening to your questions so that we can address the burning questions that we all have. My name is Olanrewaju Onito again, and I'm your facilitator for today. The Q&A session will be joined by other members of the team so that we can answer your questions. Thank you very much. And I hand over back to Isabella.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that presentation. And one of the things Mrs. Onito said is that it does not replace the online training. So don't say because you've come and you've watched the presentation, you've engaged in this session, that you won't do the online training. She broke down all the steps to follow. And there are also different avenues for you to get your questions answered. So if you can't get your question answered on this particular session or this webinar, please be aware of 24-hour service for SMS and WhatsApp, the email address, the website. There are a lot of resources. And the last thing that you talked about, I think, was, it just sounded like so good news to me, was the fact that low-cost private school owners have something in store for them with this partnership between LSCTF and financial institutions, because I know a lot of schools have suffered from revenue loss during the lockdown. So the Lagos State government is thinking holistically about this whole school reopening process. So without wasting any much time, we're going to throw the floor open for questions. Hopefully you're not asking questions that have already been answered. I can see comments in the chat box saying that it was very detailed. Thank you for the lecture. So please let's have our questions and the Q&A. So I'm going to go to the Q&A, and I see several questions here. So I'll read out a couple of them. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A, which says, good morning all. I want to ask if school will be resuming third term or will be starting 2020-2021 session. That's from Benga Akinlagu. We also have Bamidele Olaniyo is a similar question. So many dates are flying around online on dates for school resumption. Can we clarify here possibly the actual dates for school reopening? I'll take two more questions and allow the panel to answer. Someone said, good morning, I'm highly bothered about the issue of social and physical distancing when it comes to children in primary and nursery classes. That's from Onyekwelu Okafo. And then I'll take the last question, which says, will the Lagos State Ministry of Education come out early with a clear direction at this meeting? I read today that Anambra State is resuming on the 14th of September for third term 2019-2020. We need to be able to manage learning loss in our schools, hence fast track. We need to be clear early if we are continuing third term or starting a new school year. So I guess that question has already been answered. Just clarification on dates and whether it's third term or it's first term of a new session. But I'm sure if you've been following the news, you already have some of these answers, but I won't preempt things. I'll allow our panelists to respond. So I believe we have someone who will be responding to that. Is that you, Mrs. Folake Oyewale?
Please, can we have all HODs on?
Okay, Mrs. Onito will be responding to that.
Yes.
No, I won't be responding.
Yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, the facilitator. I want to appreciate our Honorable Commissioner, my Director General, the facilitator for today. I say thank you for all that you have done. The government has really done very well, and we're very proud of the state. I also want to say that I want to appreciate all the school owners, both public and private. I want to say thank you so much for the cooperation you have given the state, and that's where we really appreciate you. I'm the Director of Quality Assurance Department, and we have been going out even before the commencement of the WAEC exams. We have been to schools, even public and private schools, and we have informed them about what is going on. Some have really cooperated, they have registered online. Those that are yet to register, we have encouraged them, and then they said they will do so. And we are available, we're very much available to support them, just like my DG has said. Thank you very much.
Hello. Yes. Good afternoon.
Thank you very
everyone.
much, Ma. I can see more questions coming up. Someone is asking for the WhatsApp number, the details again. We'll share that in the chat box. I believe the DG OEQA would like to respond to some of the questions and add her bits. Over to you, Ma.
Okay. I think I had a little bit of a gap, so I didn't hear all of the questions. The two that I did hear and that I will address now is the issue of third term and the issue of social distancing in schools. So March 23rd of this year, a press release clearly stated that third term was going to be put on hold and that online learning or remote learning should continue. And for the most part, we found all kinds of innovations that have come as a result of this. People have been very, very creative in ensuring that children continue to learn. The state government, Honorable Commissioner of Education has previously stated. So as we all know, COVID-19 is still here, and we really had to decide where and how we're going to move forward. And as a result of that, we've decided that there is technically no third term in terms of a physical term, because a term is part of a school year, right? And as we all know, we are now in September when a new school year and a new calendar year is supposed to start. So last week, Saturday, I believe, our governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu announced that schools will tentatively start on September 21st for schools below and that date that schools will start. And that calendar will be done in collaboration with all of our stakeholders. Number two, social distancing in schools. We know that many schools, especially our public schools, have a lot of children that are there. So what we've done and what we're encouraging school owners to do when it comes to their population is to consider their physical space. And that's why the training is very important, because the training, the one you get online, that is fleshed out, similar to the one that Mrs. Oniton has just presented. The training online really fleshes out how you are able to do that. And then you are supposed to upload operational plans. You're supposed to upload health and safety plans, upload communication plans and learning plans. Now, operational plan has to do with social distancing. So the measurements of your classroom, how many classrooms do you have? How many people can physically fit in that space while maintaining social distancing? And that, and you may realize that you don't have enough space to do that with everyone at a time. So we're encouraging things like staggered learning times and learning days. So it could be that a particular class comes in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and another comes in, for the following days of the week. Okay, so that's just one example with social distancing. But again, the reopening training online gives information similar to what Mrs. Oniton has presented here today regarding social distancing. Thank you.
So I'm going through the questions again. Please let's endeavor to use the Q&A chat box. A question that keeps coming up is the clarification on third term or first term of the new year. Someone complained that the audio was clear, so they didn't get an answer on that. And then we have some other questions, or more or less feedback about the tech side of things, about the training, not being able to access the online training, perhaps maybe a technical issue from their end. Another question is from Tajuddin Ayondele, which says, kindly inform us if GSS 3 students will write this year's BECE. Adefemi Oluwala says, please, for the school to be safe, to school get a result of COVID-19 before we allow school, or will without any tests? Please, I need an answer to this, ma. And then one more question.
Can you repeat that question, please, ma'am?
You can answer the questions in.
Can you repeat that question? I didn't hear.
Thanks for the opportunity from nursery 1 to basic 6 in the preschools. Which class or age is expected to put on the face mask? That's from Donatus Godwin. So I'll allow our panelists to respond to these from DG OEQA.
Okay, can I quickly respond to the technical question? I mentioned during my session that you should please go to the website that I provided, OEQA Lagos, on Monday. So all of the technical issues would have been resolved. By Monday, you'll be able to have full access to the training, and your teachers and other staff would also be able to have access to the training. So let's have it, let's visit the site on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oniton. Do we have any more contributions from any of the panelists? Or I can go ahead to read more questions. I'm also keeping an eye for time.
I also wanted to state, Yes, so Miss Isabella, I'm sure that we cannot answer every single question here, and this is just a first step. So we're coming up with more streamlined ways to be able to communicate with all of our stakeholders as to updates that our office and the Ministry of Education comes up with as time goes on. Updates can always be found on our website, oeqalagos.com. Now, the question with Becca, right now, the only schools that are allowed to be open for the purpose of revision are those that are taking Becca NECO. Those are the ones that are currently allowed to do revision reopening. For those students that are taking the other one, the dates have not yet been released. Whenever the dates are released, then you go up, then you have to follow the updated information as time goes on. And then with face masks, we are encouraging our students to, of course, wear face masks, because we know that this doesn't just protect them, but it also protects people around them as well.
I'd like to say a word, Isabella, if I may, because I think we should be clear about, I think we should be clear about some of our responses. Can you hear me? Because I think people kept saying
Yes.
they didn't hear the other thing. All right. Now, the question that keeps coming up is, of course, the Becker exam. Becker exam, latest version, we'll probably have it sometime in very early in October, as soon as possible. For the third term, people are asking me, are we open for third term? Are we automatically promoting everybody? Now, let me say that, frankly speaking, we do not want to govern the day-to-day granular details of how you run your business. And we have consulted far and wide, and we think we should all just be clear that we are open for a new session, most likely. Most likely. Now, if we open for third term, that means that next session will be shorter again, and we keep on having this problem. So what we have done in Lagos is to ensure that even if we open for a new session, the first 3 or 4 weeks will be for revision, for covering up whatever we can cover up, and then setting tests just to see where the students are at, so that by the time we really start the new sessions work, we know where they are, and we're able to adapt and integrate our curriculum to fit into it. We cannot, so all we want to say now, we think schools should just sit down and address their of work, so that they really know how they can integrate the learning that was lost in third term with the learning that they'll get in first term. I think let's be frank and clear. It's if we open, I know we are worried about third term because we are worried about school fees, but I ask you to think very deeply about this and know that it's better that we go forward, integrate the two, do as many pre-tests as possible, understand where they are, and look at our curriculum and how we can integrate it so that the learning slide, we cannot go back again in time. And the question about automatic promotion, no, of course. The first few weeks, we are going to engage in a lot of tests and so that we know where the students are at. And if we have to slow down their progress, we will slow down. But if not, we just have to agree that we have to design protocols and strategies that suit the present time. We cannot go back to how we used to do things. And so I urge us all to be open-minded, that when we start school, let us start school and let us say, like we are starting, still calling them primary 6, SGS3, and so on, until we are sure of where they are going to stand. That much I can say. We do not want to get involved in how you manage that. We think good educationists should be able to manage that integration. I will end by saying that I was actually in that set that this school started in Nigeria, that did the final class in Nigeria in 4 or 5 months. And in those 4 or 5 months, WAEC was not ready to reduce standards. So we had to study like hard and like no man's business and do a lot, but we were also able to do terminal exams within 5 months. Just 5 months of being in the equivalent of SS3 today. So I think that if we give our students resilience and support them, give them a lot of good teaching. We've been doing a lot of work online. We reinforce it with classroom instruction. I think we should be able to move forward. Please don't let us move back. Thank you. Please go on.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. I think that answers a lot of the questions that have been popping up. We just have time for about 2 more questions, and I'll go to the chat box. I can see someone saying, please talk about preschool. I can see a question about face masks not being safe for children under 6 years old. And I can see a question from Juliet Onyebiwa saying, talking about social distancing and safe reopening, is it possible to have 2 sessions, i.e. primary 1 to 3 from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., while the upper class to 6 from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Is the same applicable to GSS 3 to SS3? And then I'll take the last question, and this is from Adewale Adesiji. Please, Ma, kindly expatiate on the disinfection process by the local government council, which will avail the private school certificate of operation reopening. So I believe we can get answers to those questions. The website has been shared in the chat box for you to register and to get more information.
Sorry, hello, I'm here.
ICT, can we please mute all of the participants? Thank you. I believe someone was speaking.
Hello, sorry. This is Dr. Power, ICT team lead for COVID-19 response. I don't know, I've seen quite a few questions. Like I said, before I got on the call, I was going to be more of listening in, and I've done a lot of listening. And I can see there's a lot of work going on. I say good morning once again to everybody. Honorable Commissioner, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. And like you rightly said, I think it's important to note that we have to be very creative. We haven't seen COVID-19 before. And we have never lived in this kind of age before, at least not in anybody surviving now. So we have to be really creative with some of the solutions that we are going to come up with. And I believe that the Kuala Lumpur was already working with the drafting guidelines to see how we can help. I'm not an education expert. We know COVID, and we have seen hundreds of patients with COVID and all sorts of ramifications. I'll just quickly want to talk about one or two things concerning the use of face masks. There's been a lot of discussion around the use of face masks and shields. First of all, shields are not advanced for any age group. Use of face shields alone. It's very popular and fashionable, but it is not to be used because there is no evidence that shows that face shields work to prevent COVID-19. These are some of those things that we probably discussed in more training. For the use of face masks, we have to be very careful with children, and especially children below certain ages. So the guidelines vary from country to country. Again, we look up to guidance from the ministry, work with them on setting the guidelines for Lagos State. But for, sorry, I can comment. Hello, sorry. Can you hear me now? I hope it's better. So for children below certain ages, you cannot use face masks for that. Some people say below the age of 12 because of difficulties. Now, anybody that is putting on a face mask, you must make sure that the child is able to remove it if it has difficulty in breathing. Even as adults, we know that sometimes when you put on this mask, you can develop difficulty in breathing, especially when you're trying to move around. So that will be something, so we cannot emphasize it for them. But it's very important because one of the things we've seen with COVID is that because of the fear and panic, we've seen a lot of people spend a lot of resources on things that are totally unnecessary. And again, the data gets updated on a daily basis. For example, talking about something like temperature screening, we are having evidence now that is showing that temperature screening may not be necessary. You know, when you're dealing with COVID cases, because temperature test. I just saw a question coming now. Physical distancing is also a challenge, and we'll have to really be very creative with that. So I see a lot of questions concerning the use of face mask. For a teacher who is going to be talking for a long time cannot use it, will not be able to use a face mask. That's going to be a bit difficult. So it's challenging. The time will not permit us to go through all of the issues. I think some of these issues will be done in the trainings, which we're going to work closely with the Ministry of Education, but we have to look at the reality of where we are, and we have to be very visible. Your sector, as one of the sectors that is severely hit by COVID, I know people that have not been on salaries for months because students have not been in school. So whatever we are doing has to be guided and has to be realistic, while at the same time keeping safe. Now, this is one thing I want to warn people about, and it's the point of when we started the outbreak in February, there was a lot of fear of COVID-19. And then by the time we moved into June, July, people lost their fear and everybody just thought it was normal. But I see COVID cases every day, and though the deaths are reduced, but what I tell people is that every death is 100% loss to that particular family. And for some of them, it's the breadwinners. I mean, whoever the person is to the family, it's a difficult loss. So we can't just throw caution to the wind. And we just have to do what we can as reasonable and as realistic as possible to make sure we reduce the spread of the virus. So that whatever happens, because we have seen a lot of cases all around the world, South Korea, Israel, the USA, where schools were opened and closed again because of a rise in cases. In as much as education is important, when people are dying, you can't go to school. So these are realities of what we are going to look at. So it's a new age, it's a new world, and we have to be very creative. We have worked on some of these, a lot of these guidelines. We've done hours and hours of research, and we're going to work in with all the relevant parastatals to sit down together and try to develop this thing. We are the COVID people, you are the education people, but we need to come together to see how we can make it work for us in Lagos. So we cannot take guidelines from the US and the UK because it won't work. Now, the average guideline, international guideline says every student must have a 1.5 square meter distance around them. And then we have schools where in one class you have 70 people. What are you going to do? And then I saw some very creative solutions like, can we split the classes morning and afternoon so that we stagger it? So we just have to sit down and make this work for us. And that is what we will do because that's what Lagos does. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was really insightful. I like how you treated all answers. Dr. Adefolari Okpawoye, IPC Team Lead, Lagos State EOC for COVID-19 response. I believe we've had an engaging interactive session. We've had a lot of our questions answered. We've had excellent presentations from our panelists, from our speakers. We've heard directly from the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Lagos State, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much to our convener, Mrs. Yola Seriki Ayeni, the DG, OEQA, Office of Education Quality Assurance. And I believe it's time for us to get our last and final remarks from Mrs. Ayeni. Please, over to you, DG. DG?
Have I been able to share the screen?
Yes, ma. We can see your screen, ma.
The screen? Okay, sorry. So I want to just thank everyone for coming today. You know, normally we would have had a stakeholders meeting, and I'm really glad that we're able to reach this type of numbers as we've been able to do today. I want to thank our governor, Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, for his amazing leadership. And of course, the Honorable Commissioner of Education, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, who leads this ministry in a way that we all know that we can thrive and do so well. So thank you so much, Ma, for your support, for your leadership as we move forward to school. Now, I know these are closing remarks, but there's some things that I definitely want to share with you all as we close off from here. I just want to make sure you can all see the screen.
You can see the screen, ma.
Okay, thank you. So this is part of what things right, that the changes we've seen in education is so significant, and we really need to take advantage of that right now and remember that where we go is in our hands. Like I spoke about earlier on, for year 2019, us learning outcomes was #1 for school choice drivers, and for the year 2020, school health and safety is of most significance. And this is important for private schools, but also for public schools, instilling parental trust when it comes to the education of their children. Now, for reopening around the world, and I know that the previous panelists touched on this briefly, schools in Wuhan have, fully reopened. Most European countries reopened schools at partial capacity, of course. And then we also have the case of America, where the schools there have resumed with large public school districts returning online, and most others are resuming in hybrid model. So blended learning is definitely taking place. Schools in South Africa have reopened and then they have closed again. Schools in the UAE have reopened for hybrid learning, but most close if 2 or more cases are found in the school. Schools in Israel have reopened, but most closed for 2 weeks if 1 case is reported in the school. In Russia, where cases are high, schools have reopened without mask requirements, and schools in India have remained closed. So it's not the same. It changes from country to country, and in the case of Nigeria, we see that it's changed from state to state. So what can we learn now on how to ensure that schools stay open? Because at the end of the day, that is the goal, not just to open physically, but to make sure that we are able to do so safely and we're able to do so, within the long term. So #1, we need to be able to monitor health and safety. We need to communicate early and often with our parents, with our stakeholders, with our students. We need to be willing and ready to close briefly in the event that there are cases of suspected COVID or that there is COVID with any of our children, where they've been exposed to it, or even if their family members have COVID as well. We need to educate parents and staff on the importance of staying at home when they don't feel well. So, when it comes to that, that also hinges on the type of communication, the type of culture that we had before COVID, and now the culture that we have during COVID and as we move on. Now, this week alone, I know in the UAE, about 5% of the schools, they had to delay reopening by 2 weeks due to asymptomatic teacher testing. Within 3 days, several schools across price points closed for a 2-week quarantine of pupils and teachers due to 2 or more. Now, I know that within the state, we are advocating for keeping teachers and students in cohorts. So in the event that schools need to be closed down, we don't have to shut down the whole school, but we can shut down just that very small cohort. So the whole process is not destabilized, okay? Low-cost schools saw about 10% students re-enroll for face-to-face learning, while premium schools saw the opposite. So this is very interesting as well. So we're aiming for schools to reopen with the greatest number. We want to be able to do that safely. When we think about education, the whole point of going to school, in addition to many other things, is learning. And we want to make sure that the learning loss that has been experienced in the past few months, we can mitigate it to the greatest extent possible by ensuring that we are taking baseline assessments to see where children are, and then we're able to give them the type of support that they need. The achievement gap is something we definitely need to keep in mind. Distance and hybrid learning are least effective, we know, for children under the age of 8 years old. This is just based on studies. And I would say personally, I've experienced a little bit of that with my children as well. And schools will, on average, lose about 2 years of salary over their lifetime based on learning loss and the impact on the GDP. So in closing, you know, I want us to all keep this in mind. I want us to make sure that we are registering our schools and that we are taking the course and that our plans are solid. Our learning plans, academic plans, health and safety plans, operational plan, communication plans are solid. And these plans will be our Northern Star in the event that schools need to close or the cases of COVID changes within our demographics significantly. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Abiola Seriki-Ayeni. I like how you've wrapped everything up. Just before we end this meeting, would like for Mrs. Oniyiton to share that last slide from her presentation, which has all the details of how you can contact the OEQA, whether it's by SMS or by WhatsApp or by phone. Some of you I can see in the comment section, you came a bit late. Do not worry, this session is being recorded. It's also being live streamed on YouTube, so you can definitely go back and watch. And like I said, you can also get in touch with DG OEQA. On that note, just before I ask Mrs. Oniyiton to share a slide from her presentation, I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, to the Honorable Commissioner Education, Lagos State, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, to the Director General, Office of Education Quality Assurance, Lagos State, Mrs. Abiola Seriki-Ayeni, and to our facilitators, to our panelists, to our teachers, to everybody who has come either physically through the live, through the Zoom call, or through the live stream that you've tuned in virtually. We say a big thank you for making time out of your busy schedules to be with us and to learn. And from the feedback, I can see that a lot of you have found this very useful, very enlightening, very engaging. So we say a big thank you. So on that note, we'll be ending this session soon, but first we'll allow Mrs. Oniyiton to share the slide from her screen. And I believe we can see the Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can call. Some of you are saying you're having issues with the codes. This is the phone number to reach OEQA for support. You can send an SMS, WhatsApp, 24 hours. You can send an email. You can definitely go on the website and even beyond the OEQALagos.com website. I mean, a lot of you are aware of the Read Aloud Lagos initiative. You can still check that out online. You can also go to Lagos Learns to get a plethora of learning resources, videos, materials to help you, and you will get help in ensuring that your schools reopen to adhering to all the safety protocols. So thank you very much. If we've not been able to answer your questions, we do apologize. We've slightly gone over by 5 minutes and would like to bring this session to an end. So a big, big thank you. And yes, all the details will be shared. Read Aloud Lagos, Lagos Learns, OEQALagos.com. Thank you very much.
Okay, before we finally close, all the other questions would still be responded to. On the OEQA Lagos website, there's going to be a frequently asked questions side, and we're going to, based on all of the questions that you've asked, populate that section. So just keep checking the OEQALagos.com and all of our proposed partners that we're going to use for the team. Keep checking the website as well. The website is OEQALagos.com. Please check, and on Monday, if you've never had access to the training or you've been having challenges, just go to the website on Monday. Everything will be ready for you. Thank you.
Yeah, she gave me a card.
Oh, really? So,
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. God bless you.
I have a meeting at 12. Oh my goodness.
No, fine. I can just very fast.
As people are leaving this webinar, I can't help but smile with a lot of gratitude just seeing all the comments. Thank you to the organizers. Comments coming in. Thank you very much. I appreciate you as you're saying thank you to us for saying thank you back to you. God bless you, Mrs. Onita. I can see that. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you so much. The most important thing is that after this training, this webinar, this session, you go through, you follow all the registration steps. It's so important. So this training, it's almost like a starter to kickstart the process, but it does not replace the online training. And like this that was shared, you always have opportunities to get further questions answered and receive support throughout the journey, support with materials on how to go about ensuring that all the safety protocols are observed in your schools. So thank you so much. I see someone putting in the chat box, Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó, Àjùmọ̀ṣe ni. Yes, the upliftment of Lagos State is our collective responsibility, and it's mandatory for all of us to enjoy these dividends of democracy and enjoy the benefits and the dividends of the solid leadership of Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu. So thank you very much. Any of them for granted. This is laudable. Thank you very much. Thank you. You see all your messages. For those that are asking about a recorded video of this session, please be reminded that this session was streamed live on YouTube, OEQA Lagos on YouTube. So you can go back and watch, pause, rewind, take down notes, get all the information in case you came late or perhaps your internet connection was unstable at a certain point in time. It's all there. Yes, we see your appreciation. Thank you. You say, thanks so much for preparing us for the reopening of schools. Wow, all these messages, we see them. Thank you. Says this was indeed informative. We're glad to hear that. If you're having any technical issues, please let's refer to that slide, the details, so you can receive help. Just with any system around the world, when there's a lot of activity, I mean, things will slow down. It happens not just in Nigeria, but everywhere. So please have some patience, but the system does work and you will be attended to. Someone is asking if we can display the school support website again. Mrs. Onita, maybe you can just share that again from your slides. We'll soon be, I'm seeing the participants reducing, so we'll soon going offline. So I believe you can see all the information, all the contact details to get support from OEQA, that's Office of State. Say thank you very much. I really enjoyed the meeting. That was from Dini Asoroda. Thank you. Yes, you'll get details through YouTube. The YouTube link, just go to OEQA Lagos on YouTube and you'll find the live stream. Someone is asking about a second session. We'll see. Thank you. The YouTube link. The YouTube link will be shared in the chat box. It has already been shared in the chat box, but we'll ensure that is shared again in the chat box. You can already see on the screen other ways to reach OEQA. But we'll ensure we share the YouTube link again in the chat box. Don't worry, we will resend the YouTube link. Please exercise some patience, but it will be shared again in the chat box. Someone asked, can we leave now? Yes, you can leave now. Please, the session is over. Yes, someone said they couldn't join in. Yes, the session is over. We reached our maximum capacity, but we also streamed live on YouTube. So please feel free to leave the minutes officially over. We just stayed for a few more minutes to share the details from the last slide of Mrs. Oniyiton's presentation, so you're able to get the contact details for the OEQA Support Center. So I've gone ahead to share the YouTube link in the chat box. I see some of you who have said you're not going to leave till you receive the YouTube link. So please, if you've seen the YouTube, I've actually shared it personally on the chat. So let me know if you got the YouTube. I will share it again. I can see the DG OEQA, Mrs. Abiola Seriki Ayeni, has shared the YouTube link. So it's there. The meeting is over. The live webinar is over. So there's no need to stay on. Please just get the link and you can